With the upcoming release of the deluxe version of Fields of Fire by GMT Games, my brother and I were talking about the game, and I had played it a bunch back when it first came out. Got a pretty good sense of the game. Really enjoyed it. Kind of fell in love with it, but definitely, like a lot of people, struggled with the rules back in that earlier iteration. But with the new version coming out and my older brother expressing an interest, we decided to get together one weekend and do a teach and play where we would play through and try to teach as we went. Um, so not doing a formal how to play for this like I've done with a couple of other games, because there are a lot of really good videos out there that I think explain Fields of Fire really well, and probably better than I can, because I am not an expert at it. And you will see, we are confused at certain points, we make mistakes at certain points, but I hope that in watching us go through this, if you're thinking about either getting back into Fields of Fire or getting into Fields of Fire with this new release, by the end of this video, like us, you'll have a good feel for how the game plays, the flow of it, and be able to kind of jump in and then worry about details and look up details in the rules as you go. So without further ado, we will jump into the game with myself and my brother.
And so a couple of quick caveats in terms of just teaching this. So like this, that they're here is, first of all, I'm not really an expert.
Yep.
So there may be some stuff I get completely wrong, but I understand. I think I understand the basics, and really, I think that's what's important in this game, and not getting too spun up. The other thing is, for purposes of right now, I'm not going to bother with the communications rules. It's personally, I find like laying phone lines one of the least fun things in the game. And during this teach through, we probably won't run into a situation where anyone is sort of out of command range reasonably. But when we play it for real, we can fiddle around with that. But basically, the main thing is that, like, in order to give commands, which we'll talk about, you have to be connected on a like a telephone network, and you have to maintain that network. The game can be really detailed sometimes, but for a game that's also really heavily abstracted. All right.
That seems really ironic given the way the terrain is
yeah exactly
laid out.
Exactly. So let's start with the terrain. So every scenario like starts with laying down a set of cards as a map. And especially, I think in Normandy, it's done randomly. I think in some of the other ones, they specify. And so let's talk about what each of these cards means, or what all the stuff on the cards means. So the first thing is up top here. Up top here, that's sort of the cover bonus that you get. So when you're fired on and you're in there, you get that bonus. In this case, where we're looking at this hedgerow over here, the top one is used anytime that fire is coming across a green line, and these are like line of sight lines. And then the bottom one is used if it's coming through a white line, or if it's on the card. You can also see things like over here, we've got a burst icon. Sometimes you get more or less benefit if there's plunging fire like mortars or artillery.
There.
Yeah, so in the march, right, the mortar fire or the artillery fire is like landing in the muck and it's not spreading as much, whereas in the orchard, it's exploding in the trees, and so it's much more damaging. The slow marker just means vehicles can move into this, but they can't move through it. Obviously, up here there's a no, that means vehicles can't go into it at all. Down at the bottom, on the bottom left, there's a number and a symbol. So the symbol indicates the type of cover you can find in that card. So you got, and mostly it breaks down, I think, at least for Normandy, with urban and sort of just, natural cover. And then the number is how many cover markers you can find. So one of the concepts in the game is that you want to get your units into cover on these cards. But every unit that's in cover together can kind of be attacked together. And so sometimes you want to have multiple covers and spread your forces out a little bit.
All right, so you can find one cover and all your units can be in that one cover?
Yep, absolutely. Or you can find two and you can split them up. And then on the village,
that's a one right there.
That's
right?
a one right there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on the village, there's then a multi-story, which there, if you find urban, you can find both a cover and a multi-story. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then the number at the bottom is when you're looking for cover. It's how many cards do you draw to try to find cover. What that means will become a little more obvious in a second. So that covers these. Well, and then the last thing is line of sight on these cards. So basically, every side of the card, and the sides include the corners, is going to either have a green or a white border. Green border means you can see in, you can't see out. So if we look at like from over here on row 1, if I've got a unit here, he can see into this woods card, but he can't see out of it. Right? So he can see into it from here, but he can't see out of it from here. Now, by contrast, from this village, we can see, basically we can see all the way up to the end of this hedgerow at the end of the field. There's a big, wide open line of sight there. Right? And this, goes diagonally too. So from here, right, from this card, you can see all the way to this card because it goes through the corners, which are white.
Like literally think in terms of from any one card, you can see to the right, to the left,
yes,
and diagonally.
Yeah. So from here, from this village, you can't see here. Exactly. You can't target it. Yeah. So again, it's a useful abstraction because otherwise it would get like bonkers. And so, and doesn't really affect. I haven't found that it affects gameplay that much. It sort of creates a bunch of stuff that you have to worry about when you're for tactics. All right. So that's the map,
you can
right?
Always see adjacent.
Always see adjacent. Always see adjacent. There's one exception to that, which is we'll cover at some point when we get into it. Has to do with like smoke and artillery fire and things like that. And then
reason there's 2 cards here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go to next. So if you look at the card underneath that, it's a hill. So if you you hit Alt, you kind of you'll see it's a hill. So when hills go down, they basically just raise the elevation of something by 1.
Got it.
So this village is up on a hill. So one of the things that means is that from this village, because I'm up 1, I can actually see all the way to here because I can see over this marsh.
Got it.
Right? And if
as if the adjacent card is 2 away. So from this hill, I could see here. Well, I could see here.
But here. Yeah, but you could already see here. Because of the
already
open.
See there,
but now you can see here
and here.
Yeah, exactly. And the same is true of this multi-story. So if the hill wasn't here and you had multi-story, that also puts you up 1 level. So from multi-story, you could also see here and here.
If the map was one more set of cards, can it see?
Yep.
Would it literally be okay? I could see past this one and.
Yep. Yeah, because they got a multi-story there.
Which I already could because it's an open field.
Because it's an open field. Yeah, exactly. But
you can see 1 more from here because you're up 3 levels of elevation. Okay.
And it also has a little bit to do with like sort of what's called grazing fire. So from here, if you're shooting from here, if you're shooting to here, it kind of doesn't pass through this because you're kind of firing over it.
Yep.
Which is a little unfortunate in this map configuration for us, but c'est la vie. Okay, so that's, and then on the top of each card are these potential contact markers. And these are how we're going to put Germans on the map. And we'll go through that later.
And then we've got these.
Right. So the mission told me that I had to put these down. So I went ahead and put them down. I was thinking that what I was thinking is we didn't really want to attack from either the marsh or the open fields because they don't have very good cover. So I put the attack position here, and then based on that, I put the yeah. And we've got an interesting situation up here, which is like any Germans in this back row can see across the entire back row. So we're gonna have if we get a bunch of guys here, we're gonna have a little bit of trouble dealing with them firing at us. And then there's these limits. So this is the left boundary, right boundary, and then up here is the limit of advance. And basically what that means is our units can't go any further to the right, the left, or they can't go off the map in that direction. Now, what you'll find is that it is possible for us to have to extend the map to here or whatever when we place Germans, but we can't move over there. right? We can only but we can fire over there, but we can't move over there.
Are there versions? Are there scenarios where you can,
No,
where
there.
that
Well,
that right and left and maximum advance will move, or is it usually?
I've not seen that. But I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I've not seen that. It's so. For example, one thing that could be possible, but again, I haven't seen it, is that you could end up getting like
Doesn't really matter.
a higher HQ command that says ship them or something like that.
Okay. Yep.
All right, so now let's talk a little bit about units. So we'll deal with the first platoon here, and basically, for simplicity, I went first platoon, second platoon, third platoon, and the only difference in them is that we only have 2 light machine guns. So now, if you look at this, is basically the makeup of first platoon. So they've got, or I guess this is first platoon. So they've got 3 squads, right?
Yep.
And each of these squads has 3 steps. And what the letter on the left means is the volume of fire that they put down. And this is small arms fire. So they lay down small arms fire. This will make a lot more sense once we start getting into combat. So, but just know that. And then L is the range. So L means they can fire, long. It means they can fire 2 cards. C means they can fire 1 card. V means it's very long. They can fire 2 cards or 3 cards. I mean. And then I think there's even like a P or something for point blank, which means they can only fire on the card they're on.
In the card they're on.
Yep.
What is the G exclamation point?
That's grenades. So that's a unit that can
Got
fire grenades, and we'll get into that as we go. And then this one, the machine gun, lays down a volume of fire, which is automatic, which is slightly better.
Automatic. Yeah, that makes sense.
Slightly better. And then you've got down here, you've got assets. So that's kind of like the first platoon, right? That's being commanded by this first platoon commander,
Okay.
right? So that's that's going to be our primary units that we're going to be moving on the map. Down below that, we've kind of got the units that I've sort of assigned to I've assigned to the CO.
Okay.
And I've assigned these to the CO. I'm sorry. This is I put the first sergeant over here. So we've got 4. We've got the company HQ. We've got the company XO, and we've got the company sergeant. They're essentially the company staff.
Okay.
And they sort of are able to command independently. So I basically, with the first sergeant, because the first sergeant is our one kind of like really good leader. Most of our leaders are green. He's actually not. I think he's either
scenario set, I assume.
Yeah, that's the scenario setup. So I basically gave him the mortars, the 50 cal machine gun, the mortar spotter, and the artillery spotter. So hopefully he'll move them around the map. And then
FO is forward observer.
Forward observer, yeah. So they're guys who can call things in. And so the mortars have 2 sort of modes, and you can either split it up into like 3 one-step mortars, and those could travel with the platoon, and the only thing they can do is they can do direct fire. So they essentially fire at things they can see. When you have it as this 3-step unit, it can also do using this. It can do indirect fire. So I tend to like to have
Dots are the steps.
Yeah, the dots on the steps. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right. Makes sense.
Yeah, and then the artillery forward observer, he's calling in stuff from like off map. It's just represented abstractly.
Got it.
You can see the 50 cal machine gun has a heavy volume of fire, and very long range. This little symbol, you see the little arrow symbol on it?
Yep.
That means it's tripod mounted, and that just has some implications for a couple of things in the game, which we'll cover later. But you get it. Like the heavy machine guns are tripod. And we have a Jeep, which I gave to the XO, because I tend to use the XO to travel around and set up casualty collection points to evacuate casualties. So I'm going to go over to here now, which is the command display, and just kind of quickly cover a few things here.
Okay.
So this is where you kind of put the various assets that each the CO, the XO, all of these guys have. And fundamentally, that falls into a couple of different camps. So the CO has a couple of runners, which can be used for issuing commands. I'm not going to worry about how that works now. If we ever come up against it, we can talk about it. Mostly, they've got these pyrotechnics. So these and these are all pyrotechnics. And they've got these parachutes, clusters, and then just smoke canisters and a color. So you remember that, you know the Google sheet that I sent you? This is, in the actual game, this is like a handwritten log, but in the Google sheet I sent you, one of the things you'll find is there's a section in there for pyros.
I see it.
And basically, the right column tells you the command I've assigned to that pyro. So what the pyros allow you to do is if everybody's completely out of range of you to issue a command to them, like for example, the CO can launch his Red Star parachute, and everybody who can see that is going to cease fire on the map or shift fire, right? So basically, I gave the parachutes and the clusters to the CO and the XO largely because those can be seen from anywhere on the map. And then I gave the canisters to the platoon guys because they'll tend to use them more close up. They're really
can be seen adjacent.
Yeah,
only? Or whatever true line of sight is.
Exactly, true line of sight, right? So basically, typically it'll be the cards, their card, and the card next to them. And then they've got phones, and really the only thing worth noting here is that there's two networks for the phones. One is a battalion network, which the CO has. That allows them to communicate with the battalion. And then there's a company tactical network. This keeps everybody in the company connected. So this is essentially, this is how the CO calls the first platoon leader and says, do something. Do something.
And our phone lines.
And our phone lines, which I'm not going to get into now. And then each of these, each one of these has a rifle grenade, which allows you to will do a rifle grenade. But I marked on that Google sheet, I also marked which of the platoons has that rifle grenade, because only one squad, can have it. So I basically gave it to the third squad in each platoon.
And where do I see that?
So if you're on the Google sheet, you can see next to 3-1 squad and on ammo.
I think what I may need to do, I downloaded it, and I'm guessing you did that after.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, pull it up.
I see it. Yep. I got it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you see where it says rifle grenade? Yeah.
Yep.
So this will allow us to track all this together. And then you can also see the various ammo levels that things have, right? So that we can track that in here. We can track what Germans are on the map and their ammo levels and stuff like that.
Okay.
So then there's this area up at the top. This is where we'll spend most of our time over here. This is how we track how many commands everybody has. And there's commands come in two flavors. One is allocated, and usually I'll put those at the top of the track. And one is saved, and usually I'll put those at the bottom of the track. And so allocated is how many you get that turn, and saved is any that you've saved from previous turns. And you can see there's maximums. So we're a day turn, so our green leaders can only save 3 commands, whereas a veteran could save 9 commands, etc.
Okay.
Right, and our first sergeant is veteran, so he can save way out to here, so he can save up a bunch of commands. All right, let me think. I think fundamentally that is pretty much all we need to do in order to get started. I think that's enough grounding. The rest of it we'll explain as we go. But do you have any questions before that you're that are burning?
I don't think so. Well, I guess allocated versus saved. What does allocated mean?
That'll become clear as we go through this. I'll show you. I'll show you what that means. So, all right. So the first thing we do. So actually, let's go up here. We'll go over here quickly. There's a sequence of play. And so the first thing we do is this higher HQ event phase. But that is not, we don't do that on turn 1.
Yep.
So basically that represents, it's possible for HQ to reach down and say hey, need you to do something. But presumably on turn 1, they're go. And so you've already got commands. For this mission, we're going to skip 3-2 because this is not a defensive mission. This is an offensive mission for us. And so we're going to start with the friendly command phase.
Okay.
right? So basically for, you can see here for a unit to receive command, it must be in the chain of command and in communication with it. This is what I was talking about, being in communication. But for now, we're just going to assume everybody is. So down here in the and there's an activation segment and an initiative segment. And I'll as we go through this, what those are will become really clear. It's actually really easy. So we start with the battalion HQ impulse. That only happens if the battalion happens to show up on the map. They're not here, so we don't do that. So the first thing we do is the HQ impulse. So, so because the battalion isn't on the map, the HQ is automatically activated. So what that means is, actually, let me move these out of the way, is we're going to draw a card from this deck. So go ahead and do that. Actually, you can just put them here because we're going to form a discard pile. All right. So let's talk about the cards really quickly before we get too far into this. So, and I'll cover the thing that we care about last. But one of the things about the cards is that you only ever use a card for one piece of information. So the math of the deck is set up such that you've always got to draw a new card every time you got to do something different. So like, in other words, if you get a hit, you don't then use the same card to check the effects of that hit. So in this center section is going to be a bunch of icons and words that are going to matter as we try to do various actions. You'll see all those. Yeah, you'll see all those as we go through. Here, if we ever take a hit, this tells us what happens. Down here is essentially.
What does P and C mean?
Okay. Actually, let me do this. Let me pull a better one. That's not a better one. Okay, this one will do. So a C. So you see here, there's like, so this is, if I take a hit, I basically then check what like quality the troops are, and this tells me the effect of that hit. So a C means that you reduce the unit by one step and turn that step into a casualty. And again, we'll see all this when we start hitting things. L means you turn them into a litter team. P means you turn them into a paralyzed team. And then there's also an F, which turns them into a fire team. So this is basically how you end up like losing coherence and people on these missions. The bottom is literally like a set of dice. Basically, instead of rolling dice, you decide, okay, I need to get a number between 1 and 5, so you draw a card and you use the 4. This here is when you're actually seeing if fire hits you or not. You check this area over here. Again, we'll cover this as we get into combat. What we care about now is this area up here. So it's got 2 numbers. The one with the big one with the helmet is what the number of commands you get when you are activated. And the number down below is the number you get when you're not activated. Don't worry, as we go through this, it'll become completely clear what that means. But so don't worry about that for now. But if you think we were activating the CO, so he got a 2. Now, real quickly, we're gonna follow me over here to this chart. This gets easy to memorize. There's some modifiers to this. So if he's pinned, which luckily nobody's pinned yet, but people will become pinned is the most common state in this game. If they're pinned, you lose 1. If they're green, you lose 1. If they're veteran, you gain 1. If they're undercover, you gain 1. If the card that they're on has a volume of fire on it, you can lose 1. And if the current activity is no contact, you gain 1.
Okay.
So don't.
And where's that current activity?
I'm going to show you that right now.
I think I see it.
Yeah, so the current activity is here, but this card over here. Wait, where is that card? Yes, this card right here defines what no activity means, or what activity means. So no contact is there's no volume of fire or PDF markers on the map, and no enemy units are spotted. So we start the game in no contact. So what that means is our CO, who is green, right, and that's defined by, just real quickly, if you follow me, actually that's in the mission briefing booklet up here. When you start this Normandy campaign, you can see everybody's value. So you see what I'm talking about over here?
I do.
Where the CO is green, the XO is green, the first sergeant is line, not veteran. Most of our troops are line, and most of our leaders are green. That's kind of where we start the campaign.
So hold on a second. I'm looking at the sheet. think I'm looking at the right place. It doesn't show the COHQ as a line there.
Oh yeah, that's actually wrong. Sorry, it's actually
Okay.
wrong over there. And the
And the XO is also green.
XO should also be green. Yep. Sorry.
Okay.
And then I also changed the first sergeant to line.
Yep.
So basically, yeah. So basically, the way where we started
And
this.
the troops are all line, and other than their leaders are green.
Yep. So basically, that's where we are. Is we've got decent troops with shitty leaders. That's kind of where we
Yep.
start this.
All right. Yep.
So basically, if you think it, so our CO is green, but there's no contact, so he gets 2 commands, right?
Yep.
So we go over here to the command display, and we put his thing on the 2. So those commands that you get from drawing that card, those are allocated. Those are your allocated commands. So now we got to use his 2 commands to do things, and primarily what we're going to do is we're going to activate our platoon commanders, and then so that they can do stuff. So now we got to actually talk about what the plan is here.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I assume the 2 means we can only activate 2.
Correct. That doesn't mean the other one will get to move, but he won't. He might not get to move as much. So,
Okay.
so basically,
that's that other number.
yeah, that's that other number. Exactly. So, so basically, what I think is, and the scenario, what we really want to do, we've got to secure these objectives, and I think the other mission objectives, is we might have to clear this row, but fundamentally, I think starting by moving troops into these 2 villages, which have a lot of cover, is probably our best bet. Which means that we should use our 2 commands to activate the first platoon.
First and third. Well, yes, I suppose it does. It does mean that. I mean, you can theory second platoon can get to both of them, right?
You can, but I usually tend to start by going straight.
Well, it also leaves second platoon ability to support either.
Exactly. So we go over here and we're just gonna first of all, we use both of his commands. So we flip him over and say he's done.
He's got nothing saved.
Right. And let's say he had 3 commands and we only want, you can guess how save commands work, and I'm sure it'll come up here in a second. So now we go back, and technically I think in the game you're supposed to do this sort of like you activate then move, but we're going to just do it all together. So now we draw a card to see how many commands first platoon gets. Go for it.
You are supposed to do that, or is that optional?
Wait, what do you mean? What's the question?
Like literally it would be pull the commands and decide what to do with the first platoon, as opposed to having an idea of what the third platoon commands were, or is that
I think that's how
player?
I think that's
sure.
I think that's how it's written in the rules, but I tend not to do it because it just kind of like, for me, it just seems like an unnecessary sort of distraction. So first
So
platoon,
he got 2 as well.
he got 2, and he's green but no contact, so he gets 2 as well. So mark him with 2 over there.
And that was the first platoon.
First platoon, yep. So grab his little marker and put it on the 2.
Oh. Yep.
There you go. And now we're going to do the third platoon, and hopefully he'll get something slightly better. There you go. He got 4, so that's good. So if we got to do anything grandiose, we can do it with 4. And I'll talk to you about what we might do to do something grandiose with 4. Just because it'll also explain a few things in the rules. Okay, so now we got to decide what to do. And I think, so let's just start simple. With first platoon, we probably want to start by just activating, actually, hang on, let me back up a second. Down here across the bottom edge, there's a whole list of the various actions and orders you can give.
Where is it?
Down here, you see below the board,
Oh yeah.
these
Yep,
4
yep,
things. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time going through each of these. The one we're going to be worried about right now is move to an adjacent card.
Yep.
Okay, so it costs 1 command.
Okay.
The originator could be any HQ or staff.
Okay.
And it can be given to any good order unit or LAT not marked as exposed. Trust me, all that will make sense. Good order unit, but basically though means it's this squad unit that you've been seeing. It's still on the board as a squad.
Okay.
And then, so what you're going to do, we're going to move it to an adjacent card and mark it exposed. Anytime you move in this game, you get an exposed marker. Really, that's a sort of an important concept. If there's cover on the card, you can move into it. So if we had already explored this card and there was a cover marker, we could
go straight to the cover.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Do not mark unit as exposed. Okay, none of that matters for right now. Okay. So what we're gonna do, we'll go over here and we're gonna grab one of the units.
First platoon decision.
This is the first platoon decision. So let's just say we're gonna move the first to the first.
There's one. Can you move as many as you want?
No.
On a single move?
One card. Oh, you can, no.
One counter.
One counter, one command, one counter. There is a platoon move, which costs two commands, which would allow us to move the entire platoon.
But you have to literally move the whole platoon.
You have to move the whole platoon.
So you move either one squad or one unit, one element of the platoon, or you move the whole platoon.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So
now we got to put an exposed marker on here.
Now I put an exposed marker on them. So those are over here. There's a whole bunch of them over here. It's this one right there. So you just grab that. Oop.
Well, I'm going to have to get right in front of it.
Put it on top
of it.
Is it
always... Okay, so are they random, like the -2?
No.
Is it always -2?
Always -2. Always -2. And so that basically means that he's going to be easier to hit. Minuses are bad when it's easier to hit. Okay, so he's moved, and I think because we don't really want to push anybody else forward until we know what we're dealing with, right? Kind of, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually bank the first platoon's other command. So he spent one, and we're going to bank the other one. So yes, saved one, so we can use it on another turn. Now we've got 4 commands for third platoon. So we're gonna do something fancy with third platoon, and I'm not sure. This is not a bad thing to do. It's a little weird here because second platoon is coming up, but we'll do it anyway. So what we're gonna do with third platoon is we're actually gonna split this squad.
Okay.
So if you come down here to the actions again.
Detach a team?
Yeah, where'd you find that?
It's under the rally actions G.
Okay, detach a team. Okay, good. All right, so just going back, and so what we're going to do here is, with this guy, is we're going to detach a team. So we flip the squad to its 2-step side and place your choice of either an assault team or a fire team on the card. So we go back here, and we flip him to that side.
That makes sense.
And then over here, let's see. Probably just easiest to pull from. We're gonna have to you have to clone them over here so that we don't lose them.
So what's the difference between assault and fire team?
So if you look over here, fire team is SC.
Small arms fire.
Yeah, small arms fire, but it's close, so it can fire one card. Assault team is automatic weapons, but it's point blank.
So it has to be only in its card.
Yeah. So while the A is tempting, we'd have to end up with something in the card, which is probably not going to happen. So I think we should take a fire team.
Okay.
So I'm going to clone that fire team, and I'm going to put it on this card. So that was our first command. So we deduct 1 from his commands.
I also see a fire team A/S. See that?
Yeah. I think. I'm pretty sure that, actually, I'm going to just say I don't know. I have a feeling that those can come from other units other units that you might have in the game that we don't have here. Or it's possible that they're from the Vietnam or the Korea versions of this. But I don't know for certain. But so, okay. So I deducted 1, so he went from 4 commands to 3. And now the reason I did that is what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 commands, and we're going to send this guy to this card and this guy to this card, so we can explore more of the map at once.
Got it. Okay.
Right. And if we lose this little guy, he's vulnerable, but.
Yep. So that's down to 1 action.
Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll just bank the last one. So we got to put exposed markers on both of those guys.
Yeah. You got it. You're just going to clone that one?
That was my plan, yeah.
Yeah.
Clone that. Oops. Okay. So now we have finished with activations, both the CO
Yeah,
and the
it's
two
kinda
and yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go on. If we come back over here, there's an initiative segment, and during the initiative segment, basically everybody who didn't get activated gets a chance to go.
Okay.
So we'll start with the second platoon. So we draw a card for second platoon, but now we're going to look at the bottom number, the second number. He gets a 3.
Ooh, pretty good for him.
Yeah. So now this is where, like, probably had we had more commands, I probably would have done this thing with first platoon, so we could have gotten over here. Because it doesn't make a ton of sense to move second platoon up, but with 3 commands, I think we might as well move one of his guys up. It's a little weird. It's probably tactically the wrong thing to do, but let's go ahead and use one of his commands to so we mark him with 3 just to make sure we keep. Yep. We'll spend 1 to move one of his up.
And which one are we gonna?
Oh, I usually tend to just go like, I grab the first, right? Just to keep it. It literally doesn't matter, but so and then go ahead and mark him exposed. So while you're doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bank the last 2.
Yep, he's got 2. Yep.
Now we activate the first sergeant and the XO.
Same way.
Not this. They're different. When they're activated, they get a draw. When they are not activated, they just get 1. And I'm going to keep it simple for them. I'm just going to put those on the board as saved commands.
Just going to save them.
Yeah, because they're waiting. They're waiting to find out what's going on before they're going to end up moving forward. Now, here's the next thing we got to do, and this is really crucial. Is we're going to draw a card to give us some general commands that we can use. And one of the reasons this is so important is every single one of these units can't be issued a command at this point. Right? Because they are no longer with their platoon leader.
Okay.
So what this represents is these squads just doing logical things. And I'll show you what that means. So draw a card, and we're going to look at the small number. We could use a big number here.
So this is the
general
initiative impulse.
Yep, general initiative impulse. 2. Okay. So that means we're going to be able to activate 2 of these cats. Okay. So the number one thing that you're going to want to do typically, like this is like the Rui Lopez of opening of Fields of Fire. So typically what you're going to want to do is now have these guys attempt to find cover.
That makes sense.
So if you go down to the movement chart, E is attempt to seek cover. Right? So we can only do this for 2 of them, so we got to decide which 2 we want to do it for. And my gut tells me that maybe we do it for these 2 because these cards are going to provide 3 cover anyway.
Okay.
And these 2 could really use the help.
And we're in a scenario now, if one of these finds it, the other one can't use it. They have to both find it.
Correct. Well,
okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start. Let's start with let's start with the fire team.
Okay.
And he's going to draw 3 cards. Now, one of the really crucial concepts in the game is you always draw the number of cards you're supposed to draw, right? You never just because we get what we need doesn't mean you don't draw them. And what we're looking for, you can see over here, is we're looking for one of these cards to say cover.
Okay.
So
and 1 does.
1 does. So perfect. So now discard all of those. Oh, there's some big command numbers on there, man. We needed those. So now what we do is he gets a cover marker. So we go over there, grab a cover marker.
Yep, I'm looking for them.
I think they're right here.
Oh yeah, I see it.
And you put that on top of it.
Yep, and it was that guy.
Right. Now, the reason I actually did him first is because now what we can do is...
you could move.
Oh, actually, you know what?
Do we not move to or from the cover with the other guy now?
You know what? I'm just realizing we can't... So you the only thing you can do when you're exposed is attempt to seek cover. You can't move. So what we're gonna do is then what I was thinking is that what we could do is just have him move into cover, but I just remembered, like when you've got an exposed marker, you're very limited in terms of what you can do. So he's just gonna have to seek his own cover. But the card will allow us to find 2. So
where does it? I mean,
I think it's in the rules somewhere.
that's not on that card.
I don't think it's on that card.
Okay.
No.
So it's the same thing. Draw 3.
Yeah, draw 3, and we're looking for that. We're looking for cover. So didn't get it.
There is not.
Okay, so
But we got some big command numbers again.
yeah, so he's a little exposed, as is everybody, but that's okay. And this is probably a more aggressive opening than I would do in normal, under normal circumstances. Just FYI.
Yeah, but the great thing is this is for teaching. It's
Exactly. I just figured.
throw it away.
Exactly. The more that happens, the better.
Yep.
All right. So that's our general initiative, and you can't save any of those commands. You use them or you lose them. Right. So we spent 2. So now we go over here.
You can't say it. Oh, okay. So the general initiative are just they're done.
Yep.
Makes sense. You wouldn't know who to put them to.
Yep. So the
now
next.
we're on that offensive
Yep.
mission.
And this is an offensive mission. So we are doing this. So, but we're not going to do any of this. The reason is the first step is only done on turn 2.
Yep.
And the second step only applies to enemy units that are on the map, and there are
We
no
don't have any
units. Yep.
So just looking down the line, likely we don't have a mutual capture and retreat phase.
Yeah, we don't have
or a vehicle aircraft phase.
Correct. So now we're on to the mutual combat phase, and we're gonna skip most of the beginning of this.
I was about to say, just looking at it,
we have no fire missions, but this is the
don't
really
have anybody to shoot at. But this one we have.
That is the really key one. So basically, we're gonna check each of these markers.
Those 3.
Yep. Now, the game doesn't allow you to decide which one you do. So basically, so we got 3. So going left to right, 1, 2, 3. So draw a card, and we're gonna look at the 3 on the bottom.
Got it. This is where it's the we just rolled a 3.
Yep. So 3.
Decided die, and we got a 3.
So we're gonna check this potential contact marker in the village on the right.
All right.
So how do you do that? So basically, come over
That's
to
a great question.
this card right here. So this tells you how many cards you're going to draw to find out if there's contact.
Does this card change per
I
scenario?
don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think what potential contact markers are on the board can change, but I don't think this card changes.
So this is a C, and we have no contact.
Exactly. So we're drawing 4 cards. So this is exactly the same as we did for cover, except we're looking for the word contact.
Got it.
And we didn't get any.
Done.
So
Wow.
that's awesome. So we basically
Look at the size of those cards, though. Again,
so we take this off the board.
I don't know what's normal, by the way. I don't know what the distribution is in the deck, but
I don't either, to be
you
honest.
got me on that one. Which, when you saw a couple big numbers, and I feel like almost everything we're doing now is a big number.
Well, don't worry. We'll eventually hit a reshuffle card. Okay, so now we draw on a random number 1 to 2 because we got to decide which of the other 2 we're going to grab. So we're going to do the
There's a 2 again.
Orchard Grow. So we know exactly what we're doing. We draw 4 cards and we're looking for
4
contact.
cards again.
It'll be a very boring teach if we don't get contact on one of these cards. It would be also statistically improbable. There we go.
We have contact.
We have contact. All right, that's sort of excellent.
And is that all we need with those cards right now?
Yep, that's all. Now we just discard.
That was their purpose.
That was their purpose. Yeah, and like I said, you only ever use a card for one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what happens? So
Guys,
now's where this scenario comes in. So if we go over here to the scenario charts, you see where I am? Yep.
Yep.
So down here is potential contact C.
Yep.
So we draw a 1 to a 10, and that's going to tell us which of these numbers we're gonna do. So go grab.
First card is that, and then we draw it to figure out where.
Yeah, not quite in that order, but yeah. So go grab a card real quick and tell me what you get.
On a D10.
On a D10.
A 2.
A 2. So that's not good, man. We just got incoming artillery.
Awesome.
Not
Well,
good. Okay, so So
20% chance.
So that has, you see the number there? It says 2. You see, like
Yep.
it says 2 out of 10, then a 2. So that 2 is quote unquote the package. So we go up to the card above it, which has all the German force packages for
Got it.
for this campaign. So we're on line 2. So incoming artillery.
Yep.
So we're gonna place a volume of fire and a PDF. So the unit is not spotted, but the unit is placed at max line of sight. And so what we're gonna do, there's two, basically when you see a plus, they're placed on 2 different cards. When you see a slash, like down here, they're placed together. So
With the slashes together.
slashes together,
So this one is telling me these 2 squads go up. 2 squads go together, and a leader's on another card.
I think so, yeah.
Oh no, it's the squad is on one card, and then a squad and a leader is on the same.
Actually,
card.
let's see.
That's interesting.
Well, the reason, so I may be wrong. It may be when it's the slash means that they're placed on separate cards, and the plus means they're placed together, which actually probably makes sense. The only reason I was going the other direction is because we're clearly not going to place the artillery spotter on the same card as the incoming marker.
I assume that one's just in the rule.
That's probably in errata. Yeah, that's just in the rule books, and I can check
The
that later.
plus versus the slash.
Yeah. All right. So what we're gonna do?
So what are we doing?
So we're gonna grab. We got to grab an incoming fire marker. I was just looking for those. Where are those? All right. Maybe they're over here. Yeah, they're over here. Way over here.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we're gonna grab one of those, and we're gonna place that on the card.
That one.
The incoming fire marker, fire mission,
Pending.
or pending fire mission.
marker?
Yeah, yeah,
Click.
yeah.
Oh.
But I'm flipping it to its incoming side because it says to place it as incoming.
Got it.
And the reason it does that is because if you look over here on the sequence of play, you flip pending prior. So yeah, so you place it as incoming. Now, one of the things to note here, this is one of those things I was saying is an exception. So one of the things that this creates is you can no longer see through this card or even out of this card. You can see into it, but you can't see out of it. So none of these guys can see anybody at this point anymore.
This incoming fire causes that.
That causes that. Smoke would cause that,
Okay.
but that causes it. All right, so the last thing we got to do is we got to figure out.
So I assume that incoming fire here with that -1 is also not good.
It is not good. There's nothing about this that is good.
Okay.
So the next thing that we got to do is we got to figure out where to place that artillery forward observer. So here, so you see down here, here's the German units. So we're going to grab that guy, but we got to figure out where we put it.
Yeah, and that was this one.
That's that one. So yeah, so if you draw a D10,
10 again.
10, yeah.
10.
So right front at max line of sight.
Right front. So does that mean we're going this direction?
Hang on a second. Sorry.
Actually, max line of sight is right there, the hedgerow.
Correct. So we place him there.
Yep.
Now, you remember it said that on the placement instructions, it said they weren't spotted. Do you remember that? You want to go back to that? So
No, I think I remember it. It said right up here, yeah.
Yeah,
Not spotted.
Yeah. So
We
he's
do have DOS and PDF.
Yep. So he's not spotted. So the way we do that is we grab the potential contact marker from that we just used, and we turn it over to its question mark side, and we put it on top of that guy.
Okay, that's just on the back side of that thing.
Yeah, it's just on the back side of that thing.
Got it. Cool.
So that is that card. Not a good result. That's probably gonna be very ugly. That's okay. So now we got to resolve this one. But
Did that change this?
that's what I was just about to say. Now we are now at contact. So we go to contact. One friendly occupied card is under a volume of fire mark.
Were we supposed to place a volume of fire or
That's-
PDF or anything?
That's this. That's a
the
volume.
incoming.
That's the incoming. And there is no there. So PDF stands for primary direction of fire, and artillery doesn't have a primary direction of fire. It's coming from out of the sky. If we place like a unit, like a squad, you'll see how PDFs work.
So why does it say place VOF and PDF on that?
I don't know, to be honest with you. It doesn't. There's no
Okay.
point of PDF because if you look like the forward
You just don't know
observer,
where it's coming from. He's not shooting.
yeah, he doesn't have a volume of fire, so he's not shooting.
Right.
So
Okay.
I don't know.
So-
Maybe I'm missing something, but let's just go with it. So now we're drawing
now-
3 cards.
We're at contact, so yeah, it's 3.
So we draw that, yeah. So essentially, one of the things I like about this game before you draw these is you get this sort of narrative sense, right? So basically, the Germans just had this orchard zeroed in, and we just walked into it, right? That's kind of the narrative of the game, which is one of the things I like most about this game.
Yep.
Is the game, you kind of invent the narrative as it goes along. All right.
Nothing. Oh, and a reshuffle.
But. So you always finish the draw that you're on, then you reshuffle. So that means we got to draw one more card because that one doesn't count.
Got it.
And so we didn't get a contact. So all the guys who were like able to had good cover didn't get attacked.
Of course.
Probably. There we go. So now just put them together, reshuffle. Now we got a fresh new deck with all those big numbers in it.
Nice.
All right, so we're not firing at anybody. It's a little unfortunate, but such is life. So now, going back to the
we
sequence
finished
of
the
play.
evaluate potential contacts, so we're on this combat effects marker.
Yeah, so now we just go card by card with a volume of fire on it. Look, for this first turn,
Only
it's
one.
only one. So basically, we are going to resolve this. So this has a -4. I know that the item says 1, but if you remember the package said it's a -4.
Yeah.
And
so
you-
was that?
And you can also
you just have to
see
Remember that?
you can also see the artillery spotter as a -4. But yeah, you
Okay.
kind of have to remember that. I don't actually know what that -1 on that token means, like what it's for. I have no idea. So we get -1. And okay, so sorry, let me back up for a second. So everybody on the card is going to suffer this effect. Almost all of the fire in this game affects the entire card. The only thing that doesn't affect the entire card, I think, is grenade attacks. Grenade attacks either affect one unit or one cover.
Okay.
We'll get to that once we eventually get to throwing grenades out or having them thrown at us. So basically, we are going to have to draw cards twice. And so let's just start with this guy, since this is likely to be the worst one. So he's got a -4,
7.
and then
Oh,
these
-6.
these two cancel each other out, but he's also got a -2, so he's got a -6. Now, luckily, the cards only go up to -4. So draw a card, and look on that left. -4 is a hit. You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm saying?
I see it. Yep.
So basically,
Unfortunately.
had we had a +1, we would have been pinned. Had we had a +5, it would have been a miss.
Yep.
So he's hit. So now draw another card, and we're going to look at that hit effect section. Now remember, they're lined, right? So basically what that means is that this is actually, by the way, a phenomenal result for us, just to be clear. So basically what happens is that we flip him and we put a fire team down.
Okay.
Just kind of like we did deliberately with the other guy. That's essentially what happens is we put a fire team down.
Does it effectively mean the squad has been
Yep, they're
separated a bit?
They're slightly disorganized.
Is
Yep, they're slightly disorganized now. So if you think about it, right, it would take 2 commands to get the entire squad going.
Got to combine them.
Or you can combine them.
Combine them or move them together, move them both. But either way,
Yeah, but it's
2.
going to cost us some commands to fix that problem.
Yeah.
If we decide to fix it. All right, so then this guy, he gets an extra
You've got to
plus. Oh, sorry. The other thing that happens because they took a hit is that they're pinned. So the pinned markers are over here.
automatically pin.
Yeah.
Got it.
When you're hit, you're automatically pinned. So you place a pin marker on them. So now one of the cool things you'll notice is pinned units actually get a +1.
So you get a +1. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I recall, they get a +1 on their. Well, this is not a commander, but if it was a
No, he would get he would lose a card. If you're undercover,
It
you
would
get a
actually-
+1. Yeah.
Okay, so this one's effectively got an additional cover, but it's still the -4.
Right, because it's -5. So we draw another card for him. And
Also
it's
a hit.
still a hit, so draw for hit effect. He's also line. So two of his guys turn into paralyzed units. And he only has one step, so we're going to ignore the second one. But now we come over here, and you'll see over here. So clone that paralyzed step and drag it over there. There you go. So let's tidy this up. So this fire team goes away. And essentially we've got that, and I'm just going to clone the pin marker.
Okay.
So that could have been a lot worse.
And the paralyzed,
So paralyzed,
what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I get what paralyzed means, but in terms of,
Yep.
like, can they become unparalyzed?
yes. So basically,
And how do you know what to replace them back with if you just move that marker?
yep, all good questions. So yeah, so paralyzed and litter teams and are all what's known as limited action teams, and indeed I think fire teams are as well, fire teams and assault teams. So basically, there's in the rules they have like a section where they'll talk about what like a paralyzed unit is actually capable of doing.
Okay.
But so the hierarchy is casualty, which means you're out of the game. There's nothing you can do. Paralyzed, litter, fire team, and then you could be reconstituted into the squad.
Okay.
So from here, if we wanted to get this guy back into the fight, we would essentially need to sort of like rally him twice.
Okay.
But for now, he just sits on the map.
And when you do rally them twice, do paralyzed always come back as fire teams?
Paralyzed goes to litter, and then
Yep.
litter comes back as a fire team.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
So so if we had gotten the F result or the P result on the larger squad, would the larger squad have gone to paralyzed and only been able to come back a fire team?
So if we had gotten let's
Does this make sense?
if we had gotten
Or
this
first step.
if we had gotten this PP, we would have ended up with 2 paralyzed units and 1 fire team.
Got it.
Because he's got 3 steps, right? 2 of them
He's
become
got 3 steps.
two of
It's
them.
a result per step.
It's a result per step. And
Got it.
and
Makes
if there's once they're no longer the kind of like the main squad, they just turn into a fire team.
Makes sense.
Yep. Good question though. All right, so the last thing we do is cleanup. And you can see on cleanup, you basically you remove pyrotechnics, expose markers, blah blah blah. You evacuate casualties. None of that matters now. Luckily, the guy who made this included this handy dandy clean button. So if you just hit that, it'll remove everything. But fundamentally, what's going to happen when you clean it here is it's going to get rid of our exposed markers. That's the main thing that's going to happen.
Incoming fire still exists?
Incoming fire still exists.
All right, I'll click the button.
Yep. And I'm going to confess, I'm not 100% certain of this, but I think the reason, so you can, this is going to get taken off when we get back to that combat step next turn. And I think the reason it stays on the map, again, and by the way, I'll drop a note I'll check this later and drop a note in the video if I'm wrong about this. But I think the reason it stays on the map is that if we moved units into this during this turn, as we move them in here, we'd have to suffer that fire.
Okay.
So we're not going to move anybody into that card this turn. That would be pretty suicidal.
That seems logical.
Okay. So now we're back up. So now we're on to
So
turn.
that's the turn.
That's turn 1. And we got 10 turns in this game.
That is turn 1 of our Fields of Fire teach and play. Hopefully that was helpful. It'd be great if you enjoyed the video, if you could, comment, subscribe, share, like, do all those things that help the videos get seen on YouTube. And we'll be back with more of this as we go through a couple more turns to the point where we feel like we have a really good grasp on the game. Thanks for watching.